The nature of real property. Historical perspective. Many forces have shaped the landscape of California. Nature provides an abundance of both benefits and hazards, but cultural, political, and economic forces often have brought about more changes than even the most severe earthquake or fire. The earliest settlers of the region suffered greatly at the hands of those who followed, but the state is now home to one of the most diverse populations in the world. This unit surveys the history of California very briefly to give you some idea of the dramatic origin of our system of land ownership. Then, real property is defined and distinguished from personal property. Finally, the most common ways of describing real property are discussed. Spanish conquest and settlement. In 1513, Vasco Núñez de Balboa, at the head of an advancing army of conquistadors, claimed all lands washed by the Pacific Ocean for the King of Spain. California became in principle, at least part of the Spanish Empire. But the distance from Spain to that far-flung outpost meant that it would be hundreds of years before it was fully explored. For the most part, the Native Americans who emigrated from Asia and the great tribes of the nation's heartland had ignored the land we now call California. Still, as many as 300,000 people were living in California at the time of European exploration. Missions and presidios. The major impetus to Spanish settlement of California was the establishment of the missions. Franciscan missionaries converted some of the Native Americans to Christianity and resettled them in mission. During the 20th century, California's Native American population grew to 100,000, in part because of immigration to California from other states. 38 May 23, 2017, 2:25 and 24 seconds p.m. Unit 2. The nature of real property. 39. Communities, where they were taught agriculture and crafts. Of course, living in such communities made the converts easy prey to epidemic disease. By 1900, only 15,000 Native Americans were estimated to be living in California. The missions also provided a convenient source of supplies for the presidios, the military posts. The first mission and the first presidio were founded at San Diego in 1769. 20 more missions were to follow by 1823, with the northernmost in Sonoma. Additional presidios were located in Santa Barbara, Monterey, and San Francisco. U.S. Highway 101 follows the route of El Camino Real, the main thoroughfare of Spanish California. Pueblos. During Spanish rule, ownership of all the land was held by the Crown. The King of Spain, with rancho grants made only for limited uses, such as grazing or farming. Cities, called pueblos, received 4 square leagues of land without need for a formal grant. Because a league was 4,440 acres, city officials carried much authority. The mayor and council of the pueblo could grant house lots and farm lots to inhabitants. Figure 2.1, Mission. From San Diego northward, the missions established a Spanish presence in the territory that became California. Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. Mexico, a territorial possession of Spain, established its independence in 1822. California became a possession of Mexico. But the tide of settlement brought Americans to the Pacific coast, eventually leading to war with Mexico. The war ended with the signing of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo in 1848. Following the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, California became a possession of the United States. Existing property rights of Mexicans in California were to be inviolably respected. In the 26 years of Mexican rule from 1822 to 1848, mission lands had been confiscated, private land ownership encouraged, and large tracts given out. After the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, American squatters claimed some of that land, creating much conflict. There would have been confusion in any event, because the transfer from Spanish/Mexican rule to the status of an American colony meant a change in the entire legal system. The Spanish civil law, consisting of detailed legal codes, was replaced by the English common law, an inheritance of the United States from the period before the American Revolution. This meant that Californians were to follow the laws established by the legislature, as well as the common law customs and usages established by judicial decisions. Significantly, property could be held in absolute ownership by individuals. A holdover from Spanish law is the concept of community property, which is property acquired by spouses during marriage. Community property is discussed in Unit 3, Statehood. In the midst of the post-war land problems, gold was discovered at Sutter's Mill in 1848. This discovery, coming within weeks of the end of the war, gave new importance to America's westernmost frontier. In 1850, California became a state. The federal government retained certain rights in the area known as California. The new state became owner of all lands lying under navigable streams and lakes, and above the ordinary high tide line. Tidelands are held in trust for public navigation, fishing, and recreation. Certain rights to public lands can be transferred, however, which allows the collection of income from oil and gas production. The Board of Land Commissioners was formed by Congress in 1851 to settle claims to private land in California. Appeal from the commissioners was to the U.S. District Court, and from there to the U.S. Supreme Court. Most of the Mexican land grants were upheld, to the dismay of numerous squatters. Of the more than 100 million acres of California's total area, the federal government still owns about 45%. Basically, these federal lands include everything that was not conveyed by Spanish or Mexican grant or granted to the state for education and recreation uses. Other large federal land grants were made to railroad companies to encourage the development of transportation. You will find more information about California's history and culture at the State of California website. Information about the California State Archives, which contain official state copies of land grants from the Spanish and Mexican periods, can be found at www.ca.gov archives. Collection/USC/California Today. City dwellers may receive the impression that California is fully developed and generally urbanized. However, there still are vast tracts of land in the state that contradict its urban, progressive reputation. Land ownership: California land is owned approximately in the proportions shown below. About 29% of the total land area is devoted to agriculture. Number of acres percent of total. Federal 44,904,045. State 2,332,002. Local 2,050,002. Private 50,785,051. Total acres 100,071,100. The 2012 United States Department of Agriculture Census of Agriculture, compiled every 5 years, indicates that, of all the states, California produces the greatest value of agricultural products sold, though the state has neither the greatest number of farms nor the largest number of acres of farmland. The complete report and subsequent studies can be found at /publication/2012/ Population. The United States Census Bureau, found at makes frequent demographic, income, and home value reports. For 2015, the Census Bureau estimated the population of California at over 39.1 million, which means that about 1 out of every 8 Americans lives in California. In many ways, the diversity of California's population and economy makes the state unique. Census Bureau population surveys for 2015 placed the white, not Hispanic or Latino, population of California, the largest segment, at 34% of the state's total but 60% of the nation's total. More than 1/3 of the California population was identified as Hispanic or Latino, while the nation as a whole had Hispanic or Latino population of only 18%. California also had a higher proportion of those identifying themselves as Asian alone than the 6% in the nation as a whole. California had a lower proportion of African Americans, however, than the nation as a whole. In 2013, 26.9% of Californians were identified as foreign-born, in contrast to 12.9% for the nation as a whole. California's population is not only more diverse than that of the nation as a whole, it is also younger. In 2015, the median age of California's residents was 35 years, while the median age for the nation as a whole was 37.8 years. Home value statistics continue to show great disparity between the state and the nation. The median existing home value for the nation in 2014 was $208,900, while the median existing home value in California that year was $447,010. Both numbers continue to rise, though the disparity does not correlate with household income. Median household income for California residents in 2015 was reported as $64,500, while nationwide, median household income was reported as $55,775, not a very great. /publication/2012/ difference, considering that home values are so much higher in California. California is simply a very desirable place to live, and demand for housing reflects that fact. Economy: with a 2015 gross domestic product of $2.46 trillion, California's economy is about 1/7 of the total for the nation, according to the Bureau of Economic Analysis of the United States Department of Commerce, found at. By itself, California qualifies as the 6th largest economy in the world, following the United States, China, Japan, Germany, and the United Kingdom. Urban development generally has been concentrated in coastal and Central Valley areas. Eventually, Los Angeles and San Diego will form one continuous urban area, or megalopolis. The cities surrounding San Francisco Bay now have few recognizable boundaries. Attractive housing and commercial development costs have benefited Sacramento and other Central Valley cities. For updates on California's employment and income statistics, including breakdowns by county and city, visit the California Department of Finance website at Real Property and Personal Property. Real property is often described as a bundle of rights that includes the legal rights of ownership shown in Figure 2.2. The 5 major rights, which can be remembered by the acronym PUD, are known as the following. 1. Right of possession. 2. Right to control the property's use. 3. Right of enjoyment of the property. 4. Right to dispose of the property. 5. Right to exclude others from the property. From these rights flow other privileges of ownership. A property owner usually has the power to mortgage, cultivate, explore, lease, give away, share, trade, or exchange the property owned. The Spanish Rancho grants, for instance, conveyed the right to use the land for such purposes as grazing or cultivation. California's economy is the 6th largest in the world. California law recognizes that property may be possessed by one or more persons, to the exclusion of all others. All California property can be categorized as either real property or personal property. Real property. In California, the term real property is synonymous with the term real estate. The California Civil Code definition of real property includes all of the following elements: land, fixtures to land, anything incidental or appurtenant to land, anything immovable by law. Land is the soil, the material that makes up what is called earth. Land includes the substances beneath the surface that extend to the center of the earth. These include oil, gas, and water, and they may be many times more valuable than the surface itself. Land also includes the airspace above the Earth's surface for an indefinite distance upward. In practice, use of airspace is subject to many limitations imposed by law. These limitations will be discussed throughout this book, particularly in Unit 15. Figure 2.3 illustrates the general concept of land rights. Mineral rights refer to the right to remove substances from the land, usually from beneath the surface. The term includes solid minerals, such as gold, coal, iron, and gravel from the soil as well as riverbeds. Figure 2.3, rights in land. Air rights. Surface rights. The bundle of rights. Physical improvements. Subsurface rights. Earth surface to the center of the earth and the airspace above the land, including the trees and water. Land plus permanent. Human-made additions. Real estate plus bundle of legal rights. Land, real estate, real property. Mineral rights also include minerals that have a fugitive or fluid nature, such as oil and gas. All or some of the minerals may be transferred apart from the rest of the land. For example, Mel Muller owns 100 acres of undeveloped land in San Bernardino County. Hearing that oil might be found in the area, Mel drills a well under his property. He finds nothing, but he thinks he will be successful if he drills a well slanted to reach under his neighbor's ranch. Can Mel do so? No, because Mel can take from the earth only what is directly under his own land. Mel can capture a fluid substance, such as oil, only when it is found within the boundaries of his property. In California, as in other states, water rights are becoming increasingly important. Growing demand for commercial and residential uses must be balanced against agricultural use of both surface and underground water resources, and all of these must consider both present and future needs. California's recent drought conditions have resulted in water conservation measures that are discussed in Unit 15. Air rights have been modified from the historic concept of infinite airspace, having no limitation. Federal law, the Air Commerce Act of 1926 and the Civil Aeronautics Act of 1938, allows use of airspace by aircraft. Local laws impose building height restrictions. In central city locations, air rights may be a profitable commodity. They may be transferable from one property owner to another to allow construction of skyscrapers on limited and expensive ground area. Aerial photography is now a feature of many property listings, but has raised concerns. The Department of Transportation's Federal Aviation Administration has issued rules for the use of small unmanned aircraft systems, commonly referred to as drones. The new rules, which took effect August 29, 2016. The rules can be found at provide safety regulations for drones weighing less than 55 pounds that are conducting non-hobbyist operations, to minimize risks to other aircraft as well as people and property on the ground. The drone operator must be at least 16 years old and have a remote pilot certificate. Fixtures. A fixture is anything, including improvements, that is attached, or affixed, to land. A fixture can be attached by its roots or embed dead in the land. A fixture might also be something permanently resting on the land, such as a building. A building would include all things customarily considered permanently attached to it, such as siding, plaster, nails, doors, and windows. Water rights. Riparian rights belong to owners of land bordering a river or other flowing stream. Owners of riparian rights do not own the water but have the right to make reasonable use of it on their own property. If the stream is navigable, the state owns the land under the stream, and the riparian landowner's property line is the mean high water line of the stream. Otherwise, the landowner's property line is the center of the stream. Littoral rights belong to owners of land bordering a still body of water, such as a lake. Owners of littoral rights have the right to make reasonable use of the water on their own property. Underground water rights belong to landowners, who have a right of correlative use of the water under their land. They may withdraw only water for which they have a beneficial use on their own property. Underground water that is not confined to a defined stream is percolating water. The water table is the upper limit of percolating water below the Earth's surface, at a depth of a few feet or hundreds of feet. A mutual water company may be formed when a subdivision is created and is owned by individual lot owners, who are its shareholders. An adequate potable water supply and distribution system for domestic use and fire protection must exist, and other requirements of the Corporations Code, starting at section 14310, must be met if the mutual water company was created on or after January 1, 1998. Appropriative water rights are subject to priority of claims filed before December 19, 1914. The claims remain valid as long as the water is put to a beneficial use. Since that time, permits have been issued for use of water in an area adjoining or distant from a body of water. The state may exercise its right of appropriation if there is reason to divert water for public use. The California Water Project and the Central Valley Project are just two examples of the massive developments that have moved water throughout the state. Water litigation disputes may be referred by a court of law to the California State Water Resources Control Board for hearing, then returned to the court for final adjudication. More information can be found at index.shtml. For example, Speedy Service Station has 2 hydraulic lifts in place in the repair bays. If Speedy's owner decides to sell the station, will the hydraulic lifts be included? Yes, the hydraulic lifts will be included in a sale of the property, in the absence of an agreement to the contrary. Such fixtures are ordinarily permanent installations. Appurtenances. An appurtenance to land is anything used with the land for the benefit of its owners, such as a roadway or waterway. Examples of appurtenances are some easements, rights of way, and condominium parking spaces. An appurtenance is said to run with the land because it is transferred when the land is transferred. An appurtenance could even be a passage for light, air, or heat from or across someone else's land. Stock in a mutual water company may be appurtenant to land. If it is, it can only be transferred with the land. For example, a homeowner lives at the end of a private road owned by the Bashir family. The homeowner owns an easement over the Bashir's land, that is, the homeowner has the right to use the Bashir's roadway to enter or leave his property. If the homeowner sells his land, the new owner will have the right to use the easement. Easements are discussed in Unit 5. Emblements. Cultivated crops are called emblements. They are considered part of the land until they are harvested. Then, they become personal property. If grown by a tenant on leased land, however, they are considered personal property, both while growing and after harvest. The sale of growing crops is governed by the provisions of the Uniform Commercial Code. Crops produced by human labor are also referred to by the legal term, fructus industrials. They are distinguished from naturally occurring plant growth, which are termed fructus naturals. Personal property. Personal property is every kind of property that is not real property. In general, real property is considered immovable, while personal property is considered movable. It is possible for property to change its character as realty or personality, depending on how it is used. For example, trees are real property while they are growing in the ground. When the trees are cut down, they become personal property. Tree logs may be cut into boards and used in the construction of a building that is considered part of the land. Thus, the wood from the tree that began as real property may again become real property. Tests for a fixture. A fixture is anything attached to land. This simple definition is not always simple to apply. There are times when the status of a thing as a fixture to real estate, rather than personal property, is not clear-cut. Fixtures are personal property before being attached to the land, but what kind of attachment will convert personal property to real property? California courts use 5 general tests in determining whether a specific thing is a fixture that is considered a permanent attachment to land. The 5 tests for a fixture can be remembered by the acronym MARIA, as explained in the box below. The listing agreement between seller and agent should identify the items the seller wants to remove. For example, a homeowner, Mary, has remodeled her family room and installed a wood-burning stove. The heavy cast iron stove sits on a brick base, and the chimney vents through a special opening in the roof. Unexpectedly, Mary is transferred by her company and decides to sell her house. The buyers and seller sign a contract of sale that does not specifically mention the stove but does include all fixtures in the sale. Can the seller take the stove with her? Tests for a fixture. Method by which the thing is affixed. The greater the degree of permanence in the attachment, the more likely it is a fixture. A wood gazebo on a concrete foundation is attached permanently. A screened enclosure fastened to the ground with tent stakes is not. Adaptability of the thing for the land's ordinary use. The better adapted, the more likely it will be considered a fixture. A custom-fitted item, such as the swimming pool cover, would fall into this category. Relationship of the parties. If a residential tenant attaches something to the premises, there will be a presumption that it is personal property and removable by the tenant. The court favors tenant over landlord and buyer over seller. Intent in placing the item on the land. This is the most important consideration. The intent may be for reasons of health and safety rather than to improve the property, such as installation of a fire extinguisher. Agreement of the parties. If the parties are knowledgeable, they can avoid ambiguities by specifying in writing whether various items are fixtures or personal property and how those items will be affected by the transaction. No. The installation, permanence, and use of the stove all indicate it is a fixture that should stay with the house. If Mary had thought of it beforehand, she could have stipulated in the contract of sale that the stove would not be included and that Mary would repair any damage caused by its removal. The expense of doing that would probably be greater than the cost of a new stove. However, fixtures on leased premises, parties to a lease of real property are free to make any agreement as to fixtures. In the absence of an agreement, several laws can be applied. If a tenant has attached personal property to the premises, the property may be removed before the end of the lease term if it was installed for purposes of trade, manufacture, ornament, or domestic use, and it can be removed without substantial damage to the premises. A tenant may remove a fixture installed for some other purpose only if the tenant believed in good faith that the fixture could be installed and subsequently removed. To summarize, an item attached for use in a trade or business, a trade fixture, or for residential use may be removed. The tenant must repair or pay for any property damage resulting from the removal. 47 May 23, 2017, 2:25 and 38 seconds p.m. 48 California Real Estate Principles 10th edition. Real property versus personal property. Why bother with labeling something as either real property or personal property? There are a number of reasons. The distinction between real and personal property is particularly important when property is sold or leased. When real estate is sold, fixtures are usually considered part of the land and go to the buyer. Ownership and transfer of title to real property are subject to the laws of the state within which the land is located. The only exceptions are for federally owned lands and land that is part of a federal proceeding, such as bankruptcy. Ownership and transfer of personal property are subject to the laws of the state where the property owner resides, even if the personal property is located elsewhere. The distinction between real property and personal property also is important in the formation of a contract of sale. Most contracts involving real property must be in writing. For personal property, a written document generally is required only when the value of the property exceeds $5,000. A written instrument also may be required for transactions involving personal property that fall within the rules of the Uniform Commercial Code, such as bulk sales of goods, sales of securities, and formation of security agreements. Ownership of real property is usually transferred by an instrument called a deed. Ownership of personal property usually is transferred by a bill of sale. As you will learn in Unit 4, transfers of real property can be recorded with the county recorder to give notice of the transfer to other parties. Instruments conveying personal property generally cannot be recorded, and recording may not be considered notice of the conveyance. Real property and personal property are subject to separate tax laws. Exercise 2-1. Identify each of the following as either a fixture or personal property and explain. Your choice. House patio furniture. Room air conditioner wall-to-wall carpeting. Motorhome wood deck. Space heater room size rug. Brick patio hot tub. Fireplace chandelier. Land description. It would be impossible to own or lease land if we had no adequate way to describe or define it. Street names and numbers can be used to identify buildings. What is described by such an address is a particular parcel of real estate. Usually, a court of another state can't decide an issue involving California real estate. Improvements within the perimeter of an identified parcel of land are included. Using only a street address to identify real estate presents several problems. First, some property, such as rural, undeveloped land, cannot be identified by street address. Second, a street name may change, a driveway may be moved, or the land may be developed in a way that was not anticipated. The best practice is to use the legal description, APN, the tax assessor's parcel number, and street address, when available. Most deeds show the legal description followed by AKA and the street address. In the United States, most parcels of land are defined by one of three methods of legal description. More than one method may be used in the same property. Description. Following are the three types of legal description of land. 1. Meets and bounds. 2. Rectangular survey system. 3. Lot and block. Meets and bounds. In a meets and bounds description, a surveyor uses boundary markers and may assures the distance from marker to determine a property's perimeter. The term metres refers to distances, which may be measured in inches, feet, yards, or rods. Bounds are natural or artificial boundaries, such as rivers and roads. Single monuments, or markers, such as rocks, fences, iron pipes, or other natural or artificial objects also may be used. If an angle of measurement is given, it will be based on the degree of deviation from either north or south, as shown in figure 2.4. Method of description. A metes and bounds description starts at a designate point, called the point of beginning. It then follows each boundary for a given distance, in a clockwise direction, and at a precise angle from the last point. The simplest type of description using metes and bounds would be to follow the dimensions of a tract, as in the example that follows. For example, using metes and bounds, describe lot 3 below. 1234, 8765, Oak Street, Edith Street, Maple Street, 150 150 150 150, 100 100 100 100, Apple Street. Plat map. Lots 1 to 8, Block 12, Tract 1045. Beginning at a point on the southerly line of Apple Street, 100 feet westerly of the SW corner of the intersection of Apple and Edith Streets, running thence due south 150 feet, thence westerly 100 feet, thence northerly and parallel to the first course, 150 feet, to the southerly line of Apple Street, thence easterly along the southerly line of Apple Street, 100 feet, to the point of beginning. Unfortunately, rivers change their courses, and trees can burn or be cut down. Over time, bounds and markers may be impossible to locate or may simply have disappeared. Where the distance between monuments differs from that in the description, the actual distance takes precedence. Because of the unpredictability of markers and boundaries, the metes and bounds method of land survey is not very accurate. In addition, only a professional surveyor may be able to follow a complex metes and bounds description, which severely limits its usefulness. This system of land description is not often used in California, although it can be found in older documents. It is used in many other states, including Hawaii. Source: California Department of Real Estate Reference Book, 1989 to 1990, p. 71. The following is an early example of a metes and bounds description of the land. Illustrated in figure 2.5. As you read this description, consider how the boundaries specified may have changed over the past 200 years. A tract of land located in the village of Red Skull, described as follows. Beginning at the intersection of the east line of Jones Road and the south line of Skull Drive, thence east along the south line of Skull Drive 200 feet. Then south 15 degrees east 216.5 feet, more or less, to the center thread of Red Skull Creek, thence northwesterly along the center line of said creek to its intersection with the east line of Jones Road, thence north 105 feet, more or less, along the east line of Jones Road to the place of beginning. The map in figure 2.6 shows the three principal baselines and meridians used in California land descriptions. The Humboldt baseline and meridian were established on Mt. Pierre in Humboldt County in 1853, the Mt. Diablo baseline and meridian were established on Mt. Diablo in Contra Costa County in 1851, and the San Bernardino baseline and meridian were established on San Bernardino Mountain in San Bernardino County in 1852. A parcel may be described using different reference points. For example, property in the city of Fresno, as shown in figure 2.6, may be described as miles south and miles east of the Mt. Diablo baseline and meridian, or as miles north and miles west of the San Bernardino baseline and meridian. Figure 2.6, California Township and Range Survey System. Sacramento, Fresno, San Diego, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Lake Tahoe, Mt. Diablo baseline. San Bernardino baseline, San Bernardino meridian. Humboldt baseline, Humboldt Mt. Diablo meridian. Land division, land area, is divided into townships that are measured and numbered in each direction from the point of intersection of the baseline and the meridian. A township does not refer to a town or community, instead, it is an area of 6 miles square. Because of the curvature of the earth, the lines that set off each township are not perfectly parallel, and there must be some way to compensate for this. Every 4 townships north and south of the baseline, a correction line is measured at the full interval for that side of each township it borders. Every 4 townships east and west of the principal meridian, a guide meridian establishes the full interval of 6 miles for that side of each township it borders. Method of description: the important dimensions of any rectangular survey. Description are the compass points, north, south, east, and west. The smallest area described is given first and the largest area last, so to find a parcel, you should work backward from the largest area described. In figure 2.8, the parcel labeled A is the northeast quarter of the southwest quarter of section 30. For greater accuracy, legal descriptions will spell out directions and fractional parts, and then abbreviate them in parentheses. For example, describe the parcel of land indicated by the shaded area of the township below. The shaded area is the east half of section 8, and the northwest quarter of section 9. 3 2. 11 14 13. 24 30 29 28 27 26 25. 31 32 33 34 35 36. 19 20 21 22 23. 18 17 16 15. 10 12. 17. WS. EN 654. Computing land area. Land area is based on the following units of measurement. While the length of a rod, furlong, or league is interesting to know, the measurements for foot, yard, acre, and mile have more practical applications for the real estate licensee and should be memorized. Units of measurement. 1 foot 12 inches. 1 yard 3 feet or 36 inches. 1 acre 43,560 square feet. 1 rod 5 1/2 yards or 16 1/2 feet. 1 furlong 40 rods. 6.06 rods 100 feet. 1 mile 5,280 feet, or 8 furlongs, or 320 rods, or 1,760 yards. 1 league 3 miles. The area of a parcel also can be computed using the rectangular survey system. Multiply the number of acres in a section by the fractional parts of a section described. For example, a developer wants to buy the parcel described in the last example but doesn't want to pay more than $5,000 per acre. What is her maximum purchase price? We know that a section has 640 acres, so we can multiply 640 acres by the fractional parts of the section that are involved. For section 8, 640 times 1/2 equals 320 acres. For section 9, 640 times 1/4 equals 160 acres. The total acreage is 320 plus 160, or 480 acres. At $5,000 per acre, the maximum price the developer will pay is $2,400,000. Math concepts. There are several different ways to compute the size of a parcel of land. Let's say you want to find the total area of a parcel described as the south 1/2 of the east, 1/2 of the northeast, 1/4 of the northwest, 1/4 of section 1. This could appear on a deed as the S 1/2 of E 1/2 of NE 1/4 of NW 1/4 of section 1. Method number 1. Multiply the last fraction by the number of acres in a section. Then, working backward, multiply your answer by each of the remaining fractions. 640 times 1/4 equals 160 acres. 160 times 1/4 equals 40 acres. 40 times 1/2 equals 20 acres. 20 times 1/2 equals 10 acres. The described parcel has 10 acres. Method number 2. This is a faster method, if you know how to multiply fractions. Multiply the fractions, then multiply that number by the number of acres in a section. Times 640 acres equals size of parcel. Superscript 164 times 640 acres equals size of parcel. 64064 acres equals 10 acres. 55 May 23, 2017, 2:25 and 56 seconds p.m. 56 California Real Estate Principles 10th edition. To multiply fractions, multiply their numerators and multiply their denominators. 1/2 times superscript 1/3 equals superscript 1/6. Superscript 2/3 times 1/4 equals superscript 2/2 equals superscript 1/6. Sometimes, you will find the size of a parcel of land by adding fractional parts of one or more sections. Example. Let's say you want to find the total area of a parcel described as the north 1/2 and the southeast 1/4 of section 17. Method number 1. 640 times 1/2 equals 320 acres. 640 times 1/4 equals 160 acres. 320 plus 160 equals 480 acres. The described parcel has 480 acres. Method number 2. In the problem above, you would go through the following steps. Times 640 acres equals times 640 acres equals 3/4 times 640 acres equals 480 acres. Method number 3. If all else fails, you can draw the equivalent section, mark the parcels to be added. Determine the number of acres in each parcel, and total the number of acres indicated. Lot and block. The lot and block system is also called the lot, block, and tract system or subdivision system. A subdivision map shows the boundaries of all of the parcels in the subdivision. The subdivision map is filed in the county recorder's office, usually by the developer. Each parcel in the subdivision is identified by tract, lot, and block numbers. The tract is the largest land area. The tract is divided into blocks, which are divided into lots. 56 May 23, 2017, 2:25 and 56 seconds p.m. Unit 2 The nature of real property 57. Figure 2.9, Plat Map. 1234. 8765. Oak Street. Edith Street. Maple Street. 150 150 150 150 100 100 100 100. Apple Street. Plat Map. Lots 1 to 8, Block 12, Tract 1045. The deed to each parcel of land in the subdivision refers to the tract, block, and lot numbers shown on the subdivision map. The subdivision map may also be referred to as a plat map. Figure 2.9 shows part of a plat map, with a block that has been divided into 8 residential building lots. In a lot and block legal description, it is usually sufficient to give the city name, county name, tract name, and number, and block and lot numbers. It is a better practice to give the book and page number in the county recorder's office where the map appears, as well as the date the map was recorded. Summary. The state of California has a unique history of settlement, conquest, growth, and prosperity. The rancho grants and the vast land surrounding the pueblos formed the basis for private land ownership after the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo in 1848. The Board of Land Commissioners solved problems of conflicting claims of property ownership. With adoption of the English common law, admission to the Union as a state, and the discovery of gold, California quickly assumed the importance it deserved. Even today, however, the state retains elements of its Spanish heritage, such as community property. Real property is land, both at and below the surface and above the surface. Real property includes mineral rights, water rights, and air rights. A fixture is something attached or placed permanently on the land. An appurtenance is used with land and benefits the landowner. Personal property is all property that is not real property. Something may be personal property but become real property when it is affixed to land. 5 tests can be used to determine whether something is a fixture and thus part of the real estate. Trade fixtures remain the personal property of a business. A legal description identifies a specific parcel of land to the exclusion of all others. The metes and bounds system uses natural or manufactured monuments, angles of measurement, and distances to describe a property. The rectangular survey system uses a grid-like division of land area into townships set in tiers and ranges along geographical dimensions called meridians and baselines. Townships are divided into sections, which are further divided into fractional parts. The lot and block system uses the subdivision map, which shows streets and lot, fractional parts. The lot and block system uses the subdivision map, which shows streets and lot, Dimensions. Open for discussion. California's population growth depends on the availability of water for both residential and non-residential use. 1. Should growth be limited to conserve water resources? 2. Should water resources be limited to control growth? 58 May 23, 2017, 2:25 and 56 seconds p.m. Unit 2 The nature of real property 59. Review questions. 1. During the days of Spanish rule, all land was owned by A. the missions, B. the government, C. the crown, D. the conquistadores. 2. The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo ended. A. the gold rush, B. Spanish rule, C. the war with Mexico, D. the missions. 3. Real estate law, which relies on court decisions as well as legislation, is based on A. Spanish civil law, B. French civil law, C. the right of appropriation, D. English common law. 4. Land disputes over the Spanish and Mexican land grants were settled by A. the Board of Land Commissioners, B. the State of California, C. the Spanish legal code, D. taking all land for public use. 5. In California, the term real estate is synonymous with A. land, B. fixtures, C. real property, D. personal property. 6. Real property is not A. land, B. real estate, C. appurtenances to land, A. land, B. real estate, C. appurtenances to land, D. movable. 7. The sale of real property generally is governed by the laws of A. the state where the real property is located, B. the state where the owner of the real property resides, C. any of the states, D. the federal government. 8. The sale of personal property generally is governed by the laws of A. the state where the personal property is located, B. the state where the owner of the property resides, C. any of the states, D. the federal government. 9. In California, the Uniform Commercial Code governs sales transactions involving A. real estate, B. bulk sales of goods, C. fixtures to real estate, D. riparian rights. 10. For real estate to be conveyed, there must be an accurate A. fence line, B. description, C. soil chemical analysis, D. water test. 11. A subdivision map is A. rarely accurate, B. good only to describe the entire subdivision, C. never required, D. a good reference for a legal description. 12. The most useful method of describing a subdivision parcel is probably A. the lot and block system, B. the rectangular survey system, C. the meets and bounds system, D. the U.S. government survey system. 13. The rectangular survey system is also called A. the U.S. government survey system, B. the province and township system, C. the subdivision system, D. the California system. 14. California has how many principal baselines? A1, B2, C3, D4. 59 May 23, 2017, 2:25 and 56 seconds p.m. 60 California Real Estate Principles 10th edition. 15. A township consists of how many sections? A12, B18, C4, D36. 16. A section is A. 640 acres, B. 6 square miles, C. 5,000 feet by 5,000 feet, D. 3 leagues. 17. Section 6 lies in what direction from section 1 of a township? A. north, B. south, C. east, D. west. 18. Section 22 lies in what direction from section 17 of a township? A. northeast, B. northwest, C. southeast, D. southwest. 19. Land described as the south one half of the north one half of section 18 contains how many acres? A. 80, B. 120, C. 160, D. 320. 20. The point of beginning is used in A. the rectangular survey system, B. The meets and bounds system. C. The lot and block system. D. All legal descriptions.